Well, we are a little ahead of schedule, so we don't have,
Maybe Madalena wants to kick it off for us.
yet we don't have Chris here quite yet, but Madalena, do you want to go ahead and get started on our presentation of our economic impact study?
Yes, sorry, just getting technology lined up here.
No worries.
All right. Hi, everyone. And I was just messaging Chris to join us, but yes, I am happy to get started here.
Thanks so much for joining early. I really appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so just bear with me a minute to get the presentation ready, and I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. Can you all see my screen? That's great. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Madalena Kalin. I'm a senior economist with Community Attributes, and we've been working for the past few months on a update to the Idaho wine economic impact study that we conducted for the industry a few years back. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about project background, and then I'm going to get into the data and numbers. We're going to look at an overview of the Idaho wine industry, go through some of the strengths, challenges, and opportunities that we've uncovered by talking to wineries in the state of Idaho during the study, and then going into the economic impacts of the industry. So as I've mentioned, we've provided an analysis of the statewide and county impacts of the wine industry in Idaho in 2019. So this study is an update to the 2019 study, and it's showing the economic impacts and the state of the industry in 2022. We've also done a countywide analysis in 2021. So as part of the 2022 study, we've also updated those county numbers, and we'll go through all of that in the following slides. I'm happy to take questions. I don't know, Moya or Brenna, you can tell me. I'm happy to take questions as I walk through the presentation, or we can wait till the end, whatever format works for me.
Okay, I'll interrupt you if we get a question.
Okay, great. Thank you. Right, so looking at the industry in 2022, Idaho has a total of 1,300 acres of vineyards. With most of these in the Snake River Valley, American viticultural area. This is Idaho's first AVA that was established in 2007. The other two AVAs, Lewis Clark Valley and Eagle Foothills, were established in 2016 and 2015, respectively. The Eagle Foothills AVA is the only AVA located entirely within the state. And the map here on the right is showing the extent of these, which I'm sure everyone here is familiar with. In 2022, there were 70 wineries in Idaho, an increase of 35% since 2017, which was the year of the previous study. So wineries have increased from 52 to 70. And roughly 69% of Idaho's wineries are concentrated in the 5 counties that we've looked at for this study, and that's the 5 listed here. Saint Chapelle Winery is the state's oldest and largest wine producer, and in 2022 it produced around 125,000 cases of wine, and that accounted for nearly half of the state's total production. Looking at production between 2017 and 2022, Idaho produced an average of roughly 248,000 cases of wine per year. And this is an increase compared to the average number of annual cases that were produced between 2011 and 2017 of 200,000. 2022 was a strong year for production, nearly matching the pre-pandemic 2019 estimates. So the drop in production that you see in 2020 and 2021 has been primarily driven by pandemic impacts and also a decreased yield. So from in 2021, Idaho vineyards had reported yields that were down because of the heat. So that's the those two are the main cause for that decrease in production. But as you can see in 2022, production has increased almost to pre-pandemic levels. The 5 counties that we've looked at for this study account for 91% of total statewide wine production in 2022, with Canyon County being the highest in terms of the level of production among these counties, with more than 165,000 cases, followed by Ada County with nearly 50,000 cases. So looking at total business revenues, so wine production supports business revenues through multiple sales channels. The most common among small business operations is the direct to consumer, either through wine clubs or direct sales at the wineries. The two others are self-distribution. So a winery sells its packaged goods to be resold as house wine at local restaurants. And then there's wholesale distribution to retailers, or well, I should say distributors that sell further to retailers or restaurants. So through these 3 different channels, the wine industry has generated nearly 57 million in business revenues in 2022, compared to 55 million that we've seen in 2017. So most of these revenues are consisting of revenues from wineries production, and the markup among retailers, restaurants, and wholesalers. So every time there's a resale, there's markup generated. So those account for around 16.9 million in revenue in 2022. In terms of employment, employment has steadily increased since 2017. Wineries employed around 360 workers in 2022, and that's roughly 29% more than in 2017. It's important to point out here that these are annualized employment numbers. So we want to acknowledge that there's a large degree of seasonality in the wine industry employment, with large increases during the harvest period. We've also looked at average annual wages for the industry as a whole, and in 2022, the average annual wage, including benefits in the wine industry, was about $37,800, an increase of 28% from 2017 after adjusting for inflation.
Madalena, I had a
Yeah.
question here. It says, why did you not include looking at the economic impact in growing wine grapes? That is a huge part of producing wine.
Sure. Vineyards are included as part of the economic impact, but they're considered indirect impact, so including them would double count. So when we model them as part of the industry, they are within the supply chain of wineries. So they are included in the study as part of the total economic impact. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I get it.
Great. So as part of this study, we've conducted a series of interviews with winemakers and grape growers in Idaho. A total of 14 wineries were interviewed. The interviews focused on identifying some of the major strengths, challenges, and opportunities in the industry. We've also used the interviews to validate some of the data for the study. I will say that we also conducted a survey with wineries, which was mostly focused on collecting the data for the economic impact. So on the next few slides, I'll talk through some of the findings from the interviews in terms of what we've heard for the main strengths, challenges, and opportunities for the industry. So in terms of major strengths, there were two main ones identified. So increased recognition. So the industry has been producing an increasing number of award-winning wines, and that positions it well to continue to build on that recent success. And then many wineries have acknowledged the unique tourism offerings of Idaho State and how that supports the industry and supports the creation of economic impact and revenues for not just the industry, but the state economy as a whole. So some of the major strengths there are the nice blend of urban and rural settings, and urban settings include Garden City and Boise, and then rural settings include the northern Idaho region with cooler temperatures, and the forested region, and then the southern Idaho region which offers a slightly different landscape. So a variety there in terms of what tourism visitors can enjoy. In terms of the challenges, we've heard from wineries about the COVID-19 pandemic impacts, and those have varied. Some wineries closed temporarily or permanently, while others saw increases in sales. Wineries then had to adjust to the new normal. Many saw their foot traffic for tasting rooms slowing significantly or coming to a stop. So wineries kind of had to get creative there and find different ways to support their business. Population growth and land capacity were another challenge. So local business regulations are continuing to be challenging for winemakers. And wineries and vineyards are also facing competition. So this is where population growth comes in as a challenge. We'll see that's later also an opportunity for the industry, but here, as there's a need for more housing as well as commercial development, the wineries and vineyards are facing competition over available land. Capital and labor costs. So the equipment that's necessary to operate a winery has been mentioned as a challenge. It's been increasingly expensive, especially for smaller wineries. And labor is also becoming more expensive, and some workers have been hesitant to return to the industry following the pandemic. And the cost of living is a factor here that's impacting wage expectations. And lastly, climate change and future uncertainty. So uncertainty around temperatures, increasing temperatures, the heat waves that we've seen in recent years, wildfires and other climate events are a point of concern for some wineries and vineyard owners. In terms of opportunities for the industry, so population growth is an opportunity to grow the consumer base and expand business operations. Wineries cited an increase in local customers that moved to Idaho, specifically from California. There's also new and potential markets for consumers like the millennials who are aging up and they're earning higher incomes, and that empowers them to have more discretionary income available for items such as wines. And also Generation Z was mentioned as a potentially new market, as some people in the Generation Z are reaching legal drinking age. There are opportunities to learn more about their drinking preferences and market to this segment of consumers. And then tourism growth. The state has seen quite a lot of tourism growth in recent years. As I've mentioned, Idaho wineries benefit from the state's overall tourism draw, attracting outdoor tourists to wineries during their visit. Interviewees noted the potential to market wine alongside the state's outdoor tourism opportunities. And also another thing that was mentioned was the boutique nature of some of Idaho wineries as a positive for tourism. So in terms of the economic impacts, so total economic impact for the Idaho wine industry in 2022 was 314.1 million in business revenues and 3,100 jobs statewide in 2022. That impact comes from different sources. One is wine production, downstream distribution and sales, so those sales to wholesalers, retailers, and restaurants, and then tourism, which was, as I've mentioned, a significant contributor to the economic impact for the wine industry. The total economic impact in 2022 is around 64 million higher than in 2017, and around 800 jobs more are being supported in 2022 by the wine industry than in 2017, since our last economic impact study. Looking at the economic impact by county for the 5 counties that were the focus of this study, we're seeing that Canyon County accounts for the largest proportion of total economic impact. So that's roughly 88 million in business revenues and 800 jobs and 26 million in labor income. And economic impacts that are associated with Canyon and Ada County are together account for about half of the statewide impacts of 314 million. So that brings me to the end of this presentation. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, Madalena, it's a lot of information, but it's really good and impactful. And I don't know, we probably mentioned before, it's great for us to have these numbers to show our growth and the change. I mean, even if it doesn't grow, I mean, it was good that it did. It's still impactful because it helps for our grant. We use this information in so many different ways. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Like, now is the time, because if you ask me the question, I may not necessarily know the answer, and I'll have to like email Madalena later and be like, I don't understand what this means. Okay, well, if not, Brenna, what's next?